There we go. Now the jokes will all dry up.
Yeah, they will, yeah.
Hello and welcome to Shooter Ready, the GBPRA podcast. Got a very special episode for you tonight. It's actually episode 11, season 1, and we're approximately about a year into the show. Joined tonight by my usual sidekick, Simon. Say hello, Simon.
Sidekick? Yeah, hello, Simon, yeah.
And our very, very, very special guest from Bagara, Lewis Mcfarlane. Hi, Lewis.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Glad to have you here. So we've got a great show tonight because I think this is probably our first time that we haven't either spoken, just me and Simon, talking about life in general, the shooting scene in the UK, or that we've had another shooter on the show and we've been talking about precision rifle. We had Lewis on last month. We've had Alex White on before. So this is quite a unique episode for us, our first industry guest. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Lewis to just tell us a little bit about himself.
Oh, right. Okay. So yeah, my name is Lewis Mcfarlane. I'm the assistant manager for the Bagara International Pro Team throughout the rest of the world, minus America, obviously. Currently, we have team members in the UK. We have members in Italy, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, Norway. We cover a vast quantity of countries throughout Europe and the world. And as you know, Christian, you're part of the team in the UK. So yeah, my background is I'm ex-military. I do a lot of deer stalking and management of various species such as foxes, etc. But yes, so that's basically me. Not too much about me, just in a nutshell, that is me.
So yeah, of course, we obviously know each other and we work together on the Bagara Pro team, which is why I think what we're going to do for tonight's show is actually hand over to Simon and let Simon represent the GBPRA tonight and ask all the questions.
Yeah, I'm not going to call you Bagara friends once. That would be agreed. I wouldn't do that. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Boscobel Weapon System for supporting our podcast going forward. It's not, Christian. He didn't miss it on purpose. He did it so that I could mention it afterwards. Thanks, Boscobel. Lewis, great to have you on. Christian's done his talking bit now. What I find interesting is Christian's right. This is different. You're the first person that's come to talk to us about what's going on in the world of precision rifle, who is more on the outside looking in. I know you were at PRS finale over the weekend, which we'll talk about, but you're not someone that's been immersed in precision rifle shooting as a competitor. You also, I know we spoke about in the past, there's a few angles that you and I have shared agreement with, that what hunting brings to precision rifle and things like that. So yeah, I'll be fascinated if you take on a few things. I mean, for me, the first one is: did you see France? Did you see the IPRF Worlds?
Yes, I did. Yeah, very much so. I mean, obviously, Bergara sponsored one of the stages, so I was constantly glued to the live stream to, cheer on anyone that was stood in front of a Bagara banner. To be perfectly honest.
Well, it was interesting. I mean, I was fortunate to spend some time with Al Lou, who is the team manager. Have I got that right?
Yeah.
See. And it was fascinating to see him there, along with some of the other manufacturers that were there, with a clear eye on the future for what they can potentially bring to the party for this massive growing sport of precision rifle. Do you have any favourite? You can tell us. Did you have any favourites there? Would you have your eye on Norway, or were you behind the Brits all the way, or what?
I was behind the Brits all the way, to be perfectly honest.
Good answer.
I was behind the Brits no matter what they were shooting. But when we did have competitors rock up and they were firing Bagaras, then I was cheering them as well. So
There were some entertaining characters there, that's for sure. I'm a little bit of a Sweden fan, I think, for the remaining days. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because there were lots of custom rigs there, and I remember Christian and I were looking and talking through different rifles and trying to pick out some of the actions. I mean, fortunately, everyone declared at the outset what they were shooting, which made it a little bit easier, but then it was still quite difficult to pick them out on the rack, wasn't it, Christian? I saw your frustration firsthand.
Yeah, well, I as well as taking in the atmosphere of the event over in France, and I mean, it was hot and it was windy and the sand was blowing everywhere and the muzzle brakes were banging away. But I did walk the line and had a look at all the competitors' rifles, trying to figure out what actions and chassis were all on show. And yeah, there was some stuff on there that I didn't recognise, and it was far easier just to go on the website, and it was all listed, who it was.
We didn't find that out until the second day, though, did we?
Yeah, who they were, what division,
It's
what
the hard bit, and then I'm taking credit for it. I pointed out to Christian, you do know all the manufacturers and actions are all on the website, and I could see the wash of oh my goodness, wash over him, thinking he saved himself probably 5 or 6 hours work.
Yeah, well, I was geeking out on it all. I was geeking out.
It was a place to geek out. It was certainly a place to geek out. So yeah, I mean, France was fantastic. We had Lawrence on last week. I don't know if you saw the podcast. It was a great experience. We're hoping to get some more people on there as time goes on. But what's your take on it all? I mean, where do you stand in relation to precision rifle in the grand spectrum of you as a background as ex-military and doing a lot of hunting and shooting? What's your take on where precision rifle can go going forwards?
So during my time in the military, I did compete for the various, well, the battalion. Won quite a few medals for that, for pistol and falling plate, which was that was precision rifle to us back then, because we were using standard assault rifle and trying to hit targets while running around and diving on the ground, etc. So you had to have some skill to it. I can see people when they say you can transition the hunting skill into precision rifle and vice versa. I get that. But getting hunters to understand the mindset that when you shoot from sticks or you shoot from a fence post or something like that, you could transition that easily into precision rifle, and vice versa. The precision guys can transition that into the field. So I think it's something that the hunting community of shooting need to at least have a go at, right? There's no doubt about it. They need to have a go at it. And the same again for the target guys, they may not agree with hunting, but transition it into the field to see the difference. I'm pretty sure competition, designers and things like that will be able to transition life from both sides of it and put stages together, which, for instance, there's the hunter side of the precision rifle as well, competitions that are run. I mean, you take a look at those guys, they're fantastic at what they do, and they are taking the best of both worlds from the hunting side and the precision side.
Well, so it's interesting to say, Christian will have to remind me because I'm getting older and my grey matters going. We had someone on and we were talking, one of our guests came on, we were talking about the link between, was it Jack Crawford? Knocking foxes down and fence posts and all that sort of stuff. And it is absolutely, there's the whole, we've all taken that shot breathless when we've yonked up a hill to try and get a decent position or whatever it may be, which takes it away from a significant amount of target shooting sports, where breathing isn't your enemy. And I've seen phenomenal shooters with phenomenal rifles and phenomenal skills struggle because they're blowing out the backsides. So I think there'll always be sort of strong bedfellows hunting and precision rifle. And we were going to talk about it later on, but let's get into it now because I'm a big fan of the Hunter series. Depends what they call it in the States. Hunter division. It's been done a few times in this country, sort of ish. Mark had a go at the walk and shoot side of things up at CIS for the CIS Dynamic, which was fantastic. And it's something that the Americans are really into for centerfire and for rimfire. And I'd love to see a Hunter series in the UK, a proper one, because you say about it, I've watched, we could name them, I've watched precision rifle shooters running off entirely stock hunting rifles in competitions and doing well. So it's possible. You don't need all the bells and whistles and weights. So that hunter class would be fascinating, I think.
They're very limiting as well. But you look at the precision rifle guys, big, heavy chassised rifles. You're not allowed that. You're not allowed that in the hunter precision stuff. It is, as you said, it's a stalking or hunting rifle, specific set of weights, so on and so forth. It has to come in certain categories. And they are more or less doing the same as the precision rifle guys, but they're having to tab up a mountain to then, shoot 5 rounds at an elk target or another animal target at ridiculous ranges. So yeah, I think it'd be something. I think it'd be well received in the UK and throughout Europe as well. And I would really love to see that happen. And even if it was just once in a blue moon, you know, someone put on a couple of events for it, I think they'd get a lot amount of guys would turn up, just have a go.
There you go. The gauntlet's out there. If you're out there and you want to run one of these things, you've got an appropriate venue, get it done. We're all about getting as many new venues and new providers and match organisers up as well. So if you're listening, give us a shout.
What fascinates me about something like NRL Hunter Series or something like that over in the States is the fact that everything's a blind stage.
Yep.
And you're not told where your targets are. It's locate, then engage. You haven't got that chance to look at the few shooters ahead of you, getting behind your binoculars, getting behind your spotting scope, seeing where their rounds are landing, seeing what the conditions are in the wind. You walk up to the firing point. You've got targets out there. Go find them, engage them, range them, engage. That's it's a whole other skill set.
And I had lads contacting me before the Sys Dynamic, and they were saying, and these were experienced precision rifle shooters who were used to having the van just there, and the toilet just there, and things right behind them. And they were saying, "What do I take?" I'm saying, "You take everything, lad. You get everything you can into that bag, because you don't know what you won't need." And they end up taking pictures of packing all sorts of stuff. And you've got to move with what's on your back. You know, it sits with hunting, but it also sits very much with the military side of things. And through experience, and the more of those who run, people get slicker out and fitter as well, because it's an art form yomping with that much kit. Even when we go stalking, we've not got all that kit on.
No.
You know, we might be carrying weight on the way out, but on the way in, you know, your road stack's empty. So I'd be fascinated to see it, and I think 2.2 lends itself to it perfectly. Certainly in this country. So yeah. Let's hopefully that's something we'll see in 2023.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Let's start pressuring people to put these on, shall we?
Yeah. Hopefully not too much pressure, but hopefully there's people out there that have got the space and the time. Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of manufacturers out there. I mean, Bagara is very firmly planted within the hunting world. I know all firearms manufacturers are, but some of them have become far more target sport focused, understandably, because there's a lot of money there. I go out to IWA and I get onto the continent, I realise that it's pennies compared to what money is moving around in hunting circles. And Bagara have always, I think, had a very well-placed position. Would I be wrong in saying slightly more towards the hunting world than the target world, or probably more than slightly?
Yeah, I mean, initially, yes, very much so. I mean, you look at most of the products that we've had going back to the early rifles, which I'm not meant to mention the BX11.
We can bleep that out. Don't worry, Chris, you bleep that out.
Well, yeah, I mean, the rifles were designed for hunting. I mean, obviously, the barrels were manufactured and then the rifles came along afterwards. A lot of the barrels are manufactured and they're given to, or they're sold into the market through other companies. Obviously, I can't say the company names, but quite a few sporting rifles in America use the barrels. Quite a few manufacturers throughout Europe use the barrels as well. And they're all more or less designed for the hunting and sporting side of life. Then we roll on a few more years and they designed and came out with the B14 Hmr, which obviously a hunting match rifle. It was designed for that crossover between the two. Christian runs a HMR. I've got several HMRs. They are heavy enough to compete with, and they are kind of light enough to be able to go stalking with. I mean, I use them in the field all the time. And the beauty with Bergara is, unlike some manufacturers, there are multiple Facebook groups and, you know, different forums that are monitored by Bergara staff, ranging from people like myself for the social media side of it. And then there are actually directors of the business as well that are monitoring these things. And there'll be occasional questions asked. Oh, what do you think to this cartridge, or what would you like to see from Bagara? And people start saying, oh, I want to see this, I want to see that, and so on and so forth. And then before you know it, that's brought up in a meeting somewhere within the HQ, and the next minute there's a rifle on the desk in R&D.
I've heard that. I mean, I hate social media. If I venture on social media, I end up being a pantomime villain. But I do know a lot of people who are very active on there, and there are a lot of fan pages. There are a lot of fan-run pages, but the people speak incredibly highly of how Bagara position themselves in that really Christian. Christian, I know better than anyone. That really important engagement piece where you've got to get the right people answering the questions that matter. Otherwise, you're fobbing people off, or the delay in the response just nullifies the impact of it. So yeah, and even before I realised how sort of forward-thinking Bagara were, I was talking to people that were buying Bagaras based on customer service. Who were saying to me, "Oh yeah, do you know what? I've had a fantastic customer service day in, day out." And that's, I'm going to sound terrible when I say this, that's something a lot of companies don't really care about these days. Certainly companies that aren't selling to their own country. We get caught in that sort of RFD bubble where things come in as quick as they come in, no one complains, and they're just happy to get what they get, whereas it just seems to be a complete open and transparent engagement with Bagara, and I do like that. I think that's something they're doing very well. Feed that back into the meeting, make sure it gets up to the meeting, that.
I mean, obviously the customer services side, we've got coverage throughout Europe and America, and those guys are very good, because obviously we understand that someone's gone out, bought a rifle, and something might not be right, or something needs looking at. And the basic gist is we have a 2-year warranty on all of our rifles. We will fix it and make sure you're happy, right? All of the guys within the pro team are all trained to be able to assist people on Facebook via messengers or on Facebook groups. I mean, Christian had it from me. We went through just about every part of the rifle you can. When he came to Spain as well, we got one of the head gunsmiths sit us down and go through quite a lot of stuff on various rifles, ranging from how to adjust the triggers all the way to, you know, what you should be looking for if there is a fault with a certain part, and so on and so forth, and how it will react. I mean, you touched on the customer services there and RFDs in the UK. It's a bit difficult, as you know, because you can't, like our brethren in America, take a rifle apart and put it back together yourself. You know, you need to go and get someone who is a dealer, a gunsmith, and can, you know, put it into the right areas. But that said, I have helped people in the UK in the best way I could. For instance, there's a chap that lives quite a few hours from me. He couldn't zero his rifle. I grabbed, and it was a 6.5 Creedmoor, and I had quite a few rounds of ammunition in my cabinet. He couldn't get hold of any. I drove 3 hours to his house, went over his land. We went out shooting for the day and resolved the problem with his rifle. It wasn't actually a problem with his rifle. He was using really light ammunition, and he wasn't quite used to the rifle yet. So basically, we just went through the marksmanship principles, and I think he burnt through about 140 rounds of my ammunition. But he got experience from it. He enjoyed himself, and I think he's bought another 2 Bagaras since then. You know,
and there's that brand loyalty side, and it's both a clever business ploy if you're a strategic analyst looking at business, but it's also a really nice thing to do. You know, there's people that will only ever shoot a certain platform. Why? Because of a positive experience they've had in the past. And it's nice because what I like to see is, I think you've got Bagara got a fantastic range going from the B14, the 2.2 all the way through, and you can see that progression. You know, I'm not a fan of calling things chassis. I call things stocks and old money. But you can see that continuity all the way through, where Christian can put his 2.2 and his 6.5 on a table, and I have to have a proper look. It's normally the magazine or the bolt that gives it away, but from distance. And I think having that progression and continuity all the way through and building that brand loyalty, I think it's a really strong suit on behalf of Bagara. I think they've done a good job of that.
Well, I mean, you touched on something there. You said it's a good business plan. Bagara don't see it as that. Anyone that buys a Bagara is immediately what we class Bagara family. As soon as they buy a rifle and they post it on one of the Facebook groups, oh, I've just bought my first Bagara, the first things you'll see are shooters like myself, Christian's done it, Al's done it, guys in America, and just, you know, other members of the group. Welcome to the Bagara family. And that's the way it's treated. Anyone owns a Bagara, as far as we're concerned, are part of the Bagara family. We will help each other, we will help you, and we'll make sure everything runs in the way you want it to do so. Unfortunately, other brands, they do have that faceless side to it. And I think that's
what people are used to dealing with in the UK. In the UK, that's what they're used to dealing with. And when I talk about the RFD bubble, that lack of that disconnect that happens when someone orders something, typically has to wait if it's coming from out of the country. A lot of people have been sat waiting for rifles for far longer than they should have done. I know COVID, but that's always been the case. No, it's nice. It's nice to hear. Keep it up. It's just what we're talking about, what it's like. What's your take on? I've talked about RFDs and what have you. What's your take on the UK? Where the UK is at the moment in terms of the shooting scene, competitions wise, and what's your take on how healthy a place we're at?
So competition wise, and I'm sure every other shooter in the country is exactly the same. We want to see more. We want to be able to do more. Who doesn't like grabbing the rifle and going out and having a bit of a competition and a social event at the same time, right? Everyone wants to do that. You got to keep in mind that the shooting community within, and I mean all of the shooters in the shooting community within the UK, we're only a small group compared to the rest of the populace, right? So we're sort of like that little club that's hidden away that no one should speak about, but yet we want to go and meet other like-minded shooters and have a laugh and, you know, have that banter. For instance, the Sunday when we were there, I don't think I've ever laughed so much at watching some of the shooters get in and out of that bathtub and try and get a position to shoot. It was unbelievable. It was a real belly laugh, and I was in a bit of pain afterwards watching, and they're just laughing so much. But that's the thing. Every shooter there, it wasn't mean or anything like that. Everyone was having a social and having a laugh, and they all understood, and they're all helping each other and banter. So what I would like to see from the shooting community and clubs and venues is more of it, please. Right? We want more of it. It's that simple.
So Simon, that was what Lewis is talking about there is the obviously, you know, the Precision Rifle Series UK series finale at Pro Shoot in Wales. They did have one of the stages on Sunday, which was a toilet and a bathtub, and you had to shoot from a couple of rounds from the toilet seat out about 600 meters or whatever it was, and then jump into the bathtub, and again another 2 rounds from the bathtub, and keep jumping back and forth till you fire 10 rounds. Now, it reminded me a little bit about when we did a kayak and a bread basket at the GBPRA qualification matches for the IPRF Worlds, but not controversially, your brass was allowed to land on the floor. It was allowed to go outside of the bath.
Yeah. And if your brass went down the toilet, any points off?
And there was a few cases did go down the pan. Yeah. It was good. I've got a great video.
They get to fish them out.
I'm not allowed to post it publicly, but I've got a great video of Andy Simpson trying to shoot in the bathtub. He told me, don't release that, Christian. So I've promised him I won't. So if you're listening, Andy, you're safe, mate.
So yeah, I mean, PRS. I think is that their last event for the year now until 2023.
Yeah.
Had a great year. Mark up at Gardeners. We've been running events as well. We need to find new things to be doing. Hunter series would be fantastic. We've had a foray into the world of teams this year, which I think has a lot of potential. People are bored of hearing me anyway, but they'll be bored of hearing me say how I'm a firm believer that the industry should support teams and individuals more. We're not going to get drawn into the whole why is he a sponsored shooter nonsense? Because I get bored of that really quickly as well. When we had Lawrence on last week, who demonstrated the effort you have to put in, the skill you have to have, the attitude you have to have, to initially get attention of people. But if you're shooting well, those people will come knocking on the doors. There's a lot of people that just think, well, I want that stuff now. I'm a firm believer as you get what you give in any sport, and certainly a sport where it's quite expensive. So teams for me is a great opportunity, I think, for the industry to give back, no matter what the size, small companies, large companies, anyone that wants to see the sport grow. And I can only see that getting bigger. Everyone's got their views on it. Some people don't like it. That's fine. Some people do. Some people may not like it now, but might like it when it suits their purpose, and who knows. What's your take on teams?
I know where this is going. Okay,
I just cut out the middleman.
No, I think you've got your individual shooters who are sponsored shooters. That's great, and you've got your individual shooters that aren't. And like you said, you've got to have the mindset and the attitude to make it work, right? Not just turn up and going, I want this, I want that. That doesn't help anyone. Teams, you need a full group of guys doing that, or lady shooters doing that. And that's the difficult part, is finding those individuals that are of a mindset that will work in a team. But it's finding all those individuals that's the hard part, right? Let's face it, because everyone, or not everyone, but quite a few people take umbrage at sponsored shooters, right? Sponsored in whichever way, be it a contracted pro team or brand ambassador, or a supported by a manufacturer.
We've seen that. We've seen the nasty side of that, but we don't care for that. Because...
yeah, I've been on the receiving end of that as well, and still are. And it's unfortunately people that want to go places and want to be sponsored have to understand that that is going to happen, and it's something you've just got to deal with. So, but going back to the team side of it, as I said, I know where this is going. Yes, I do think the team side is fantastic, because it brings a bit more camaraderie to it.
Can I just segue in something, just a little bit of a filler, because what I find where teams will be in 5 years' time, the biggest issue I've had, because those, people know I'm part of I run a team, is finding common ground for individuals. You've got individuals with strong skills, their own personal preferences of kit, their own personal preferences of ammunition. They could be on the same caliber but shooting different weight bullets, all these different things. And it's finding that common ground, and that is a nightmare to do as individuals. You end up being a team of privateers trying to find some common ground, and you get there eventually, because people start to see that having that guy next to you that's running the same optic or the same barrel or the same round or whatever it might be, you can help each other out. For me, where it's going to come into its own is where the industry sees that if you can get that consistency across a team, that then puts you in an ideal position to perform at a different level, on an international level. I mean, some of the guys that were out in France shooting AIs or shooting similar platforms were able to help each other out in quick time. And I think as a nation, when we start doing that, we start getting people who are able to work together and be good at working together on a regular basis. That can only make our international footprint improve, I think. So that's why I'm keen for producers to get behind teams.
So as I said, I know where this is going, and you just landed me right into it. So something that Bagara have been looking at is sponsoring more events, sponsoring more competitions, as well as looking at sponsoring a team. Okay.
Really? Wow.
The cat's out the bag. Yeah. The cat's out of the bag there.
We couldn't. Yeah.
For the last
thing to drop it all on the floor and see where it landed.
Yeah. For the last few months, I've been poking and prodding various members of the UK shooting scene. Christian being one of them. I've spoken to quite a few other guys. Christian has been whether he knows it or not, up until the other week, been gathering information for me. I've been asking him about, well, what about this person? What about that? What do they shoot? How do they, this, that, and the other? And then obviously Sunday was the official outing of it, should we say. We went to the shoot as we were just watching, but we weren't. Everyone knew that we were there, and the initial stage was we were surveying what people were shooting, what rifles they were using, ammunition, so on and so forth, who they're sponsored by. Now, the reason why we initially said that that's what we're doing is we didn't want to add any more pressure to what these guys and girls already had in the way of competing and hitting the stages, right? You've got two guys staring at them while they're running through their drills, running through their stage, puts everyone off. And we didn't want to do that. We let everyone go through their first stages. And then when people were coming up to us afterwards and saying, oh, why are you gathering the survey information? What's it for? We literally let the cat out of the bag, and which went, because we're scouting for potential members for a potentially sponsored Bagara team. We wanted to see who changed their demeanor and attitude, and if anyone was hungry for it. And a lot of shooters did. There were a lot of people that impressed us. There was, wow, some shooters were, they didn't change their demeanor or attitude in any way, shape, or form. But straight away, watching them on their first stage was like, we need to keep an eye on that one there, right? And yeah. So yes, the cat's out of the bag. Bergara, we are looking at prospectively starting or sponsoring a team of shooters in the UK.
Which is great news.
Well, it is. I mean,
so I can say this: they've now got a head start. Everyone else out there listening, Bagara are ahead of the curve here. To all the other manufacturers out there, this is how you do it. Making money out of the industry is one thing. Putting it back in and trying to develop it, grow it, improve skills. You've mentioned lads and lasses, ladies and gents, boys and girls. Bringing women into the sport, bringing kids into the sport. This is how it happens. We've got a young chap. His dad's sitting not too close. Who's come into the sport, and it's been fantastic to see Luca come into the sport. And they're the things they need to be aiming for. They need to be saying, well, it's great to come into a team, or it's great to be an individual, but this is the potential pathway that I can take to be I'll call it a supported shooter, because sponsor doesn't really cut it, because it sounds very one way. Build that relationship. So no, I take my hat off to Bagara, and I'm fascinated to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you say supported, and ours will be a bit more than supported. I can't really go into great amount of details, but they will be the Bagara Precision Rifle team or something to that effect. So much like Christian and our other guys, they'll be part of the pro team. So they're a bit more than supported. They will.
Yeah, I mean, I use the word supported because a lot of people have in their heads. I stood in France and I watched professional shooters, fully sponsored shooters who do it for a living.
Oh, yeah.
Whose mum and dad was sat having a beer with me, having been flown out by that company. There are all different levels within the spectrum of sponsorship. And for me, we're at the infancy of any support that the industry is giving. Yeah. So who knows where it will go? I personally think we've got people at the moment who could call themselves semi-pro shooters. Have we got to a point where people are pro shooters? Well, until they can start thinking about whether they're going to turn up for work at Tesco's on Monday, that's where we need to get to now. We need to get to a point where the industry says we need to invest even more in these people. I have nothing but admiration. It's fantastic to see, and to everyone else out there that's watching, the bar's been set.
Yeah, the bar's been set by the little company from Spain.
Well, it's one of those, isn't it? It's been needed for a while, so I think it's fantastic to see. We always have a plug in relation to bringing ladies and juniors into the sport. Going, and we've mentioned before, but I think was it the last podcast we had about maybe women's team and stuff like that? We need to see all that. So the more industry support for the various competitions up and down the country, the more that's going to happen. So fantastic news. What else have you got on your list, Christian?
Yeah, so I'd like to maybe talk a little bit more about the Precision Rifle Series UK match.
Yeah, go. We went off subject a little bit, so that's my fault.
Yeah, no, from the weekend.
Bring us back on like you do.
Yeah. So I guess, Lewis, we were both there watching the shooters competing there. What did you? I mean, it's been PRS UK's first season. What was your overall impressions of how their competition's gone this year?
So I was at their inaugural shoot. Was it not last year before? Up at Gardeners, and I'd spoken to Andy a few times before it, and he invited me along. And much like everyone else, we were sat there wondering, like, how's it going to go? What's he going to do? That sort of stuff. And I have to say that he pulled off, or the whole team, him, James and Trez, they pulled off so many stages that everyone was thrown about and they didn't quite know how to handle it. For instance, I saw a BMX upside down and they had to shoot off the wheels. And I mean, come on, straight away, you throw your bag on it and it just zips off the side. It's like, So there was some really random stuff. And obviously then we were at the final on Sunday. And I have to say, from everything that I know of Andy, Trez and James and the stages they've put together in the competitions, they have basically pulled it out the bag every time. And you look at the final, I mean, stage 15 called the Kazi, and there's a toilet sat there in a bath, and everyone was like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And they jump in the bath and go, that really didn't work. And everyone else behind them was like, we told you it wouldn't work. And it was just all the camaraderie and the banter. And, and then you've got obviously Annie Lou, which is, Ryan's wife, Mrs. Charlton. She jumped in the bath, cross-legged, woman shooter, just hammered away. And then whenever one of the lads got in the bath and they were making excuses, you'd hear a shout from the sidelines, oh, I got in the bath fine, there's nothing wrong with it. And it was the banter and the whole camaraderie. It was a very good match. I really did enjoy it. Even as guests and just people stood there watching, all the shooters were engaging with everyone. Obviously, as you know, Rachel, my partner, was there. Annie Lou threw a rifle at her and said, up there you go, up you go. And Ryan took her out on the range and she shot 575 yards, which is 40 yards further than she shot before, with my 300 Win Mag, I might add. So she was absolutely stoked. She's still buzzing off it now. And unfortunately, I now have to spend another fortune because she now wants a chassis and she wants the trigger. And I only just upgraded a rifle so she can compete for next year anyway. So she's competing. And from what I've seen and spoken to other people, there are other partners and new people that turned up want to have a go as well. So again, fantastic that there's more females coming in as well, because we spoke to one chap's wife. She's desperate to shoot. She's going to start next year.
Ben's wife, Laura.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah. And then
little baby Louis.
Yeah.
He was cute. 5 weeks old Simon. 5 weeks old Simon at the range in his pram with his evening on.
That's how you do it.
Yeah. I got a little snap of him with permission from mum. But I could see him with a rifle in his hand in 15 years' time.
Proper parenting, that proper parenting.
We see the thing is that when Rachel and her was talking, and she said, "Oh well, I don't know if I'll be able to do it because I have to bring him with us to the range." And Rach said, "Oh, don't give me that. It's dead simple. I'll shoot first, come off, grab the little and make sure it's all right. Then you grab your rifle, go shoot the stage. And if there's a team of girls, we'll just swap it around and make sure that he's looked after while we shoot."
Excuse from picking up brass.
Yeah.
Excuse from having to do spotting duty. It's like, oh, you look after the creche. Am I being sexist now? But it's a little bit. it's about the practicalities, isn't it? It's the practicalities of making sure that everybody can come into the sport. I mean, we were at the range, weren't we? And can't remember who we were talking to now. It was Alice. We were talking to Alice, weren't we, about the support for women and encouraging more women to get into the sport, and that's something that Alice was keen to do. We've got Annie Lou coming through. We've got your Rachel coming through. There was Laura who was at the range. Daisy popped up.
Daisy.
Nick and said hello. Daisy's somebody else that's wanting to get into precision rifle shooting, and I'm sure there's going to be other ladies out there. I know a lady who goes up to CIS 2-2 shoots, Chelsea. So there's quite a few ladies out there. I think they need to, I think, give them something to aim towards, and I think aiming towards coming together as a group that work together to try and qualify for the South Africa World.
Well, I'd even make it more. I'd even put them under even more pressure in a positive way. You know, we're waiting to hear back from the IPRF in relation to what's going to happen in Italy. We're open to take females to Italy. What I'd say is lady shooters are like any new shooter to the sport. They deal with all the same issues, learning the ropes. You know, recoil management is something that everyone has to come to terms with, especially when you want to start sort of lobbing them out to distance. And 2-2 sort of almost eliminates that issue, and as a training tool and a progression onto centre fire. So what you also get is the opportunity to do some of it indoors. So if people are out there thinking, I want to get into this sport, be it ladies or juniors, find somewhere that's shooting 2-2, find somewhere that hopefully will be able to give the information about how you can qualify to get out to Italy. And I'm confident there will be a juniors and a ladies division.
Absolutely.
And what better way to get into the sport? Silverstone, Pro Shoot, Little CIS, one of the affiliates. You know, if you've got 50-meter range, get your club on board, and you can eliminate one of the biggest issues for people when it comes to travel to shooting, which is traveling, and secondly, cost as well, because the costs kept right down.
So I also want to mention, in case there are any female shooters out there that are thinking about PRS and so on and so forth, I generally find, and you guys should agree with me, even though some people listening might not want to admit that they agree.
Women are better shots than men.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh,
because there is no ego involved.
I've seen it. I've had my arse handed to me on a plate by lady shooters. Yeah, and I don't know what it is. It's magic is what it is. Because putting it down to anything else would be sexism. It's magic. So I can't explain it. No,
Andrea's always beating me. Just like, come on, Andrea, give us a chance.
I've been out with lady stalkers that, you know, I'll never forget. There was a last I went out stalking with, and there was two does came up, mum and follower, and she said, "Do you mind if I take them both?" I said, "No, you crack on." And before I could finish my sentence, she sent 2 rounds and they both dropped. And I just turned to her and said, "That was absolutely amazing." I don't think I've ever seen anyone react so fast with precision. And I mean, we're talking 210 yards, I think they were. So not massive distance, but phenomenal shot. And I mean, I did say, we had a chat and I said, "Have you ever thought of doing any competitions, anything like that?" You know, not really, no. Because, you know, it's and as far as she was concerned, it's all male shooters. And that's the problem, isn't it? Is trying to get the ladies in, because we know for a fact, or I know for a fact, that there'll be some lady shooters out there that would trounce me, right? And I'm happy to say that.
But it's been a very positive 6 to 12 months. We've seen a lot more juniors and ladies getting into sport, and I think fast forward 12 months, I know we'll send a strong group to Italy, including the ladies and the juniors, and then South Africa. You know, I watched some of the lady shooters out in France, and some of them phenomenal. So it all bodes very well for the future going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we've got my son Luke, who's making his first steps into shooting as well. You know,
heard of him.
He'll be a junior. He'll be trying to qualify as a junior for Italy in 2023. He won't be a junior, unfortunately, for South Africa 2024. He'll be shooting with the big boys by then. We've got young Will, GBPRA member. His dad's James. We're talking again to Alice at the range about. I don't know if you remember, Lewis. We're talking about Will at the range there. I think the juniors is going to be where we're going to have the significant challenge. And again, you know, I think we've identified a number of lady shooters that are passionate about the sport and want to get into it, are either into it or want to get into it, and we need to support them. You know, I'm joking about the creche. You know, we clearly need to make sure that they're welcomed and they understand that it's just an inclusive sport. And I think shooting, precision rifle, any shooting discipline is a massive leveler. It does. I mean, you look at some of the lady shooters in America. While we were talking, I've just brought up the list of who placed where overall out of 250 shooters in RF Worlds. Okay, 16th place was a lady overall across all divisions. You know, in the UK and Ireland, we had one shooter that was above her, and that was Rory Gibbons, who just happened to be on Sunday crowned the inaugural Precision Rifle Series United Kingdom champion, even though he's from Ireland. He came over and beat all the Brits. He's always beating the Brits. Nobody can touch him. The guy's like, he's absolutely on fire. And if he's not getting beat by his brother, there's nobody else beating him. He's usually winning. So you know, kudos to Rory and Dan Gibbons. You know, you two guys shot amazing, have been shooting amazing for season after season. But yeah, that just puts it into context in terms of how the sport is a great leveler. You don't need to have the physicality necessarily. Okay, there's a lot more to shooting than just physicality. So you know, I think the juniors is where we're going to struggle, and where I think if anybody's listening to this, you know, and they've got a child, or you are a junior yourself who's interested in shooting and has been watching a bit of precision rifle on YouTube from the States, from the media that the GBPRA have been putting out. You know, if you're interested, get in touch with us. info@gbpra.co.uk. Go to the website, send us an email, and we'll see what we can do to get you into shooting.
And I guarantee there will be a club within a reasonable distance from you who will support you safely and lawfully getting into the sport and developing. And then through the IPRF qualification process, which affiliates will be running, you'll have every opportunity to get out there and get a ticket to the big show. But again, let's not forget, we're 12, 18 months on this journey. And I'm confident it will all come with time. It'll come with time.
I want to talk about the BMX again. So, Lewis, you mentioned we've got, you know, we're having a chat now. We're boys, aren't we? You're talking about something that we love. So let's keep going. So the BMX, it's an interesting point what you raise about BMXs and spinny wheels. And we've had our, you know, kayak moments and things like that, which actually the kayak was one of my favorite stages of all time, because I actually did quite well in it. And I managed to keep my brass inside the boat, where a lot of more experienced and much better shooters than me didn't. And so I actually had quite a good stage there. But it is interesting how Precision Rifle Series UK, the GBPRA that took over from PRL, you know, at the beginning of 2021, we were all new to it. And there we are with this remit, this desire to put matches on and be match directors and design stages and courses of fire. And we've all gone through that process of making mistakes, learning from our mistakes, maturing and moving on. And, you know, and certainly we were getting better feedback about our matches in the GBPRA towards the end of the season. And clearly, even though that was the first match I've been to the PRS UK guys, they've clearly moved forward, because everybody said that was the best match that they've ever put on at the weekend. And then you've got Gardner's Guns up in Scotland, who keep it's not everybody's to everybody's liking, but they keep on trying to innovate. They try to do sniper pairs competitions. They try to do the cis dynamic, which is a little bit of a hunter type thing that we've all been discussing. You know, I think it's great where the sport is right now, with all of these organisations that are passionate about trying to move the sport forward. And what we need to be doing going forward is trying to bring everybody together and have them working more closely together. And certainly we're wanting to work with Gardens and with PRS UK for hosting qualification matches, so that people don't feel like they have to prioritise one over the other. We want people to be able to look clearly at the calendar and say,
yeah, deconflicting the calendar is massive. It's got to be the focus.
We want people to look at the calendar and go, well, actually, finances allowing, I can do all that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's an expensive sport. We get that. We've been talking about sponsorship already. We won't go over all that again. But we want people to be able to look at the calendar and go, actually, you know, I can fit my family life around that. I can go and do all of that and I can achieve all my goals, whether that's qualifying for the PRS finale, the qualification for the IPRF Worlds, whatever it is that you want to do. And then obviously there's the teams matches that we talked about, which is very much about showcasing the industry through them having their teams competing as a team against other industry teams as well. So I'm gonna try and bring it back now to the Bagara team, Lewis. So so you know, I know we can't put names in the frame just yet because we haven't got names in the frame just yet. There's still some figuring out to do there. But do you want to just talk to us a little bit about when it's going to start, if it starts, what's going to be the format and so on, how many shooters and
No, I can't. I'm sorry, no. It's all secret. No, I'm only joking. It's still being discussed, obviously, because it's going to be a big thing for Bergara to sponsor a full team in one country. And I mean, the overall plan, as far as I'm aware, is it's going to be one country as a test bed, and then, for all we know, go from there. There is then another country and another and another. I mean, we've been speaking to possible or prospective individual shooters from France, Italy, South Africa. And as you know, we've been discussing well, not really interviewing, but discussing and meeting with people here. There's multiple lists, and I can't really go into who's on what list for what purpose and the names and so on and so forth.
Yeah, no, of course.
But there are quite a few people that we've put on the list, and I don't want to say qualifications because that sounds really bad, but it's more of their attitude, their ethos, and so on and so forth, and how they would work as a team. Not so much work for the brand, but work together as the way that the Bagara family ethos is. We want people that are this little tight-knit group, but yet still have the banter and the chats with and sociable with everyone else. But when the chips are down, they'll stand by each other, and the next guy on the thing will get full support from the whole team. Obviously, we're looking at 2023. It could be slightly later in 2023. It really depends on what's going on in the world. I mean, as you know, Bagara are moving factories. We're in the process of moving from a current small factory to one that is literally over 10 times the size. It's enormous. Because of the amount of firearms that are being produced. I mean, you've been to the factory, you've seen it yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking of. When you've got a factory that is producing over 9,000 rifles a month, and we've still got a backlog because of the amount of rifles being ordered, and well, kind of says where the brand's going, you know. And I mean, they're wanting to show off the firearms and the team and what they're capable of doing. So yeah, I mean, as you said, when is it going to start? What's the format? At this moment in time, it's still being discussed, but we're looking at 2023. Hopefully. I mean, I'm pushing and I'm harassing Al about it a lot, that we have it in place for March, which is when I believe everyone starts again, so to speak. So if we do it, as you know, Christian, people will be spoken to, interviewed, so on and so forth towards the end of this year. Rolling into January, it will be contracts and information sent to those people that have been selected. They will sign. We will inform them of what equipment, etc., and what they're going to get, as well as what is required of them, which is a little bit more than just turn up and shoot. As well, you know, there is a lot more to it than other brands in the way of here's some kit, show it off. It's a lot more in depth than that for Bagara. You know.
And I don't think I'd be involved in it if it was just that. I mean, For me, what I like about Bagara and why why I was very happy to join the Bagara Pro team when I was invited last year, was the fact that there is that family ethos. You do feel that, you do see that and experience it, and it isn't just about showing off the products. It's talking about the experiences, and being part of that family for me was the important thing.
Yeah, I mean, the strange thing is a lot of brands, if someone working within the position of a pro staff member, they get to speak to one person who is their basic line manager. I can't remember how many times, I've lost count, I've actually had random conversations with people in Bergara that you wouldn't really ever think you'd speak to. People like Dan Hannes over in America, I've had conversations on Facebook with him, and it's like, people say, you're talking to. I'm like, yeah, I really do know I'm talking to, I had a conversation with Nate Treadway when he was the CEO of BPI over in America. And it's like, people saying, you do know that's Nate. I'm like, yeah, I know,
and you don't need to be part of the pro team for that to happen. I mean,
no.
I've had that experience before becoming part of the pro team. And that's what I'm saying. You do feel like you're part of something and part of a family.
I mean, look at when we were over at Spain. We went out on one evening for a meal, and we had two very, very senior members of staff playing with alcohol all night long. And if I do remember rightly, you had a glass of tequila that was literally half a bottle. And there was bottles of wine and all kinds of whiskey everywhere. And it's like, this is a director and a senior manager of the business just randomly chatting away to us and having various conversations about all kinds of stuff that we should probably not be hearing, So, but it was just family ethos. You part of the family, and they kept on saying that. So,
everybody that we met over there, everybody on the factory floor, just passionate about the company, passionate about shooting, whether it's hunting sports or whether it's target sports. Everybody's invested in it from that perspective as well. Now, for I don't know if a lot of our listeners might not know this, or they might know this. I shouldn't presume. But the North American market is separate to some degree from the international market. And although we represent Bagara worldwide, we're international market, and there's the North American market. And it's fair to say that the North American market, although it's very, very focused on hunting, they've also been very, very focused on competition sports and precision rifle sports. And it's been very frustrating for me to look at all the Gucci gear, all the Gucci rifles that they seem to get over in the North American market, that I'm just wishing we could see in the international market, that a sort of precision rifle tuned, proper race guns that they get. And don't get me wrong, love my HMRs. They serve me very, very well. But if Bagara are putting all of this effort into precision rifle team, is there going to be some secret skunk works rifles on the horizon? Anything that we're allowed to announce, or do we steer away from that conversation?
I'll say that you've been to the R&D department. There is some very funky things going on in there, right? Obviously, we can't discuss anything, even if I know or don't know of any new products coming 2023 of cartridges or designs or purpose for that particular rifle or whatever. However, I did hear on a podcast not long ago where someone said, Bagara don't have a competition rifle. So let me just, at this current moment in time, let me just set this straight, shall we? We have the HMR, Hunter Match Rifle. There is the BMP, which again is a match chassis. It's a chassis-based match rifle. There is also, which Christian might get a bit excited about this, in America, there is something called the Premier Competition Rifle. Comes in 6 Creed and 6.5 Creed. It's in an MPA chassis. It has an MTU barrel. The thing is built like a precision rifle tank, and yeah, it is now available in Europe. It is available if you go to the Bagara website, look for the limited editions. They are available. There was a post this evening on Bagara Instagram, Bagara Rifles Instagram, of a box, and it said "box 'em up," and it was a Premier Series box, and in the background,
is that what that was? I saw something with a security camera. Ah, right, okay, that makes sense. I don't do a lot of social media, but I saw that.
Yeah, so it's put it this way: if Rachel would let me, I'd probably buy about 4. As soon as I saw it last year, I was smitten. I mean, it's an MPA chassis. You know, it's a massive drain pipe of a barrel.
It's a custom rifle out of a factory.
Yeah, the thing with Premier Series is what people see the price tag of the Premier Series and they think, well, I can get one built in the UK for that. You're correct, you can, but keep in mind that the Premier Series is hand built by one gunsmith from start to finish, from parts that are exact. Okay, so they will check a batch of Premier Series bolts and the actions, and if one of them is out by, you know, a millionth of a mic, they'll bin it and start again. So they will pick the bolt and action that fits perfectly. They'll pick the barrel blank that fits perfectly. The chassis, the trigger system, everything. Obviously, MPA, we know it's damn near perfect anyway, as well as the Trigger Tech triggers. And it's tested and built from start to finish by one guy who then goes and shoots it. If at any point something is wrong or it doesn't shoot right, it's scrapped and started again. Not recycled parts, it's scrapped and started again. So that's where the cost comes in. They are semi-custom, I suppose you'd say. They're hand-built, they're hand-tested by one guy start to finish. So yes, they do cost more, but there's a reason to that. It's the same as you going into another, you know, rifle builder in the UK and saying, I want this, 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 and this. And they turn around and go, yeah, that's X amount. And you're like, yeah, I'll pay that. But when you see it's from a large manufacturer, people don't. For some obscure reason, they think it's a factory-built rifle, whereas the Premier Series are not.
Yeah,
you know,
but it's coming from a factory. It's got the support of the factory behind it.
That's exactly it. Yeah,
part of an industry.
Yeah. So yeah, the limited edition Premier competition rifle is available in Europe. There are a very limited number, so get on the website, get it ordered.
We're talking, Lewis, and see if we can get your foot in the door. Right, Bagara Loving's got to stop at some point because you two could just do this all night. We'll start comparing Cerakotes next. Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear. Great stuff coming from Bagara in terms of kit, in terms of mindset, in terms of support for shooters, in terms of getting into the industry and trying to drive things forward. So, on behalf of us, you know, well done, Bagara, and keep up the good work. And, you know, we look forward to seeing what you bring to the table 2023 and onwards. I always have one eye on the clock, and Christian always says, don't look at the clock, but we must. Have you got anything else on your list, Christian? I've done my list before you two started a Bagara Loving.
Let me have a quick consult with the you're supposed to fill this moment. You're supposed.
I can't fill. I've nothing. I've even used my fillers to fill between the bits that I wasn't expecting.
No, I think we're all good.
Right. In which case, we can edit that bit out and make it look seamless. That's what we do with the wonders of modern technology, and bleep out some of the bits that we're not supposed to say. See, you could have said all that. You could have given us a full briefing on everything, and then we just bleeped it out. That's what they do. That's what the pros do.
There is something that I've not mentioned, which might be of interest to you guys and your listeners.
Go on,
in America, we have something called the Bagara Academy. With the UK and European market expanding, there is hopes, dreams, and plans that this will be moved into Europe as well.
Fantastic.
So it's something, you know, and we understand that these sort of things do cost a lot of money, but the way Bagara are doing it, it's not going to be as much as you think. You're going to get training from some very knowledgeable people, and they'll have you shooting really crazy distances that you wouldn't have thought you could do yourself. That's what they That's what they do, and they're hoping to bring that to Europe, as well as put on more experience days, so you can come and test the rifles, every rifle that was used, of every cartridge and caliber going, including the 375 H&H if you really wanted to, and more demo days like the one that we ran for a business not long ago. So yeah, there's more stuff in the works for all the listeners. Just keep your eye out and ear to the ground.
Yeah, get on those Bagara Facebook pages and go see it firsthand, see what it's all about, and share the love, share the Bagara love in. That's what you need to do. Right, that's been brilliant, Lewis. It's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you, and all being well, we'll see a lot more of you for the coming 2023 season. Christian, as always, keep doing what you're doing. Do you want the last word, Christian? Do you want to say something pithy at the end, like you normally do?
I don't want to say anything pithy, but I should maybe thank our kind, generous podcast sponsors, Boscobel Weapon Systems.
I've already done it. You can't do it again and make up for it. Corey and Sean will see straight through that. They'll see. You'll edit mine out at the beginning, won't you? That's what you'll do.
Who are the manufacturers of the Bell Lock Bipod? Perfect for all hunting and precision rifle scenarios. There we go. I've made up for that poor part at the beginning. Beautiful.
Right. Well, in which case, it's been fantastic. Lewis, thanks again, Christian. Thanks, and to everyone out there that bears with us and puts up with our nonsense. Thank you for listening or watching out there in YouTube land. Stay safe.
Be kind to one another. I got it in again. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
You know.
Cool.
Now
I'm waiting for you now to say something stupid or daft so that I will let you recording it after that. Right, okay, you're not going to say anything, are you? Right, give me a minute when the recording.
Oh dear.